Ayo, back at it again. Thank you all for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Matt, and this is my political commentary series, otherwise known as Valkyrie. So, thank you for tuning in, no matter how you are tuning in, whether you're watching this as a video, whether you're tuning into an audio format. I greatly appreciate you engaging with this content. I greatly enjoy talking about politics. I think it's something that I'm going to continue to try and talk about. So, recording this on the 1st of June 2024 in the early morning, broadcasting to you live from the heart of Empire. And I really want to talk about Hinds, a song by Macklemore. I've been a fan of Macklemore for a while. I mean, he was essentially the artist of my junior high year because he was really popular back then. But this new song called Hinds is something that I really, really want to touch on, really want to emphasize. If you have not listened to it, I definitely recommend you go check it out. I'm going to kind of go through the lyrics because I kind of want to emphasize different points that he touched on throughout his song. So the first verse, the first phrase or whatever, so the people they won't leave, what is threatening about divesting and wanting peace. The problem isn't the protest, it's what they're protesting. So, talking about the student protests for Palestine, there's been protests started on college campuses here in the United States, but has kind of spread throughout the rest of the world. And the establishment does not like when young people use their voices to stand up to what the establishment is doing. So if you look at moments over time, you look at the Vietnam War protests, you look at the protests against the war in Iraq. You know, the student protests were always right. They were on the right side of history. They were on the morally right side of history. But the establishment did not like that they were using their voices to question the actions of the establishment. And these protests for Palestine and the ensuing protests around the world and around the globe are really shaking up the establishment because the establishment does not like to be questioned, does not like to be second guessed. They do not like when they are called out on their BS. So this phrase here, the problem isn't the protests, it's what they're protesting. Absolutely correct. It goes against what our country is funding. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. Block the barricade until Palestine is free. I really like that he emphasized that again. He repeated it. When I was 7, I learned a lesson from Cube and Eazy-E. What was it again? Oh yeah, fuck the police. And to be completely honest, that's probably there are two lines here that I really like. Block the barricade until Palestine is free, and then fuck the police. Because the police are not your friend. I hate to break it to you. If you don't realize that the police are not your friend, then you have a lot of learning to do. Because the police are agents of the state who are here to violently maintain the status quo that does not benefit the 99%. Like, sure, like, there are police officers that are, you know, amazing and doing the work that is necessary to uphold, you know, the safety of their community. But overall, the police are violently maintaining the status quo. So fuck the police for sure. Block the barricade till Palestine is free. Absolutely. And then he goes on in the second verse. He's talking about actors and badges protecting property, which really alludes to the fact that police aren't here to protect you. They're here to protect the interests of the wealthy and the well-off. So they're here protecting property. They're here as actors of the state, not here to protect you, but here to protect the interests of the wealthy. A system that was designed by white supremacy. Absolutely. If you look at how this country was founded, it's white supremacy in a nutshell. You look at the land theft of native indigenous populations. You've had centuries of the government here in the United States actively perpetuating a genocide against native populations. I mean, let's even talk about the inhumanities of slavery, talking about subjugating people just based off the color of their skin. So the system that we have here in the United States is built off of land theft of indigenous peoples and subjugation of people of color simply for the color of their skin. So it's designed by white supremacy. The people are in the streets. You can pay off Meta, but you can't pay off me. That's actually one of my favorite phrases in the entire song, because if you just take that phrase, you can pay off Meta, but you can't pay off me. I've always admired Macklemore as an artist, as someone who's willing to stand up for what he believes in, and he's basically saying like, look, Meta can be bought, but the common person can't. He's talking about politicians who serve by any means, APAC and all these companies that are trying to sell fear around the land of the free. I really like that phrase too. Selling fear around the land of the free. But this generation here is about to cut the strings. You can ban TikTok, take us out the algorithm, but it's too late. We've seen the truth. We bear witness. And that's the thing about TikTok. They're not banning it because they, are worried about it being Chinese. They're worried more about it because on TikTok we're seeing dead Palestinian children, and that is not something that the establishment wants us to see. So, they've been trying to ban TikTok under the guise and under the auspice of, we're in this, proxy war with China in terms of culture, in terms of military, in terms of politics, in terms of all this trade war nonsense. So they're trying to ban TikTok by saying, oh, it's Chinese, when in reality, that's not the point. The point is APAC and all these companies are trying to, and successfully buying politicians to try and get rid of TikTok, because TikTok is showing the world the genocide that is unfolding in the Gaza Strip. But it's too late. We've seen the truth and we bear witness. Seen the rubble, the buildings, the mothers and the children, and all the men that you murdered, and then we see how you spin it. Who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance has always been about dollars and the color of your pigment. I love that line. He's talking about who gets the right to defend and who gets the right of resistance. Because if you look at the media narratives of the past 3 years, for example, Ukraine right now is resisting Russian invasion, and the media was in lockstep with Ukraine because they have the right of resistance. But when it comes to Palestine, they don't have that same mentality, because if you look at Ukraine and you look at Palestine and you look at the color of the skin between those two, they're not the same. They're two different skin colors. So when it comes to Ukraine, the media is pushing this right to defend and right of resistance. But when it comes to Palestine, that is not the case at all. It's about the dollars and the color of your pigment. But white supremacy is finally on blast, screaming free Palestine till they're home at last. I really like that. I really like how he's talking about really emphasizing white supremacy, because that's really a lot of what's going on here. We see the lies claiming it's anti-Semitic to be anti-Zionist. I've seen Jewish brothers and sisters out there riding in solidarity and screaming free Palestine. Organizing, unlearning, finally cutting ties with the state that's going to rely on an apartheid system to uphold an occupying violence. History's been repeating for the last 75. The Nakba never ended. The colonizer lied. That right there, this phrase, the Nakba never ended. The colonizer lied. If you look at your history with it, especially post-World War II history, you look at the formation of the United Nations and the partition of Palestine, The Nakba was the expulsion, the violent expulsion of Palestinians from their land, and the Nakba has never ended. Like the colonizer is saying, oh, either A, the Nakba never happened, or A, that was so far in the past. Like that's what the colonizer's trying to spin, trying to get you to believe. But in reality, the Nakba has never ended. The Zionist entity has continued to try and push Palestinians off the land in trying to do anything they can, violently just try and push them off the land. So the Nakba never ended. The quicker you understand that, the better. Because, when we talk about the Nakba, we think about it as some, event in the past, but in reality, it's ongoing. The students in tents posted on the lawn occupying the quad is against the law. And a reason to call in the police and their squad. Where does the genocide land in your definition? I'm really glad he put this line in here. He's destroying every college in Gaza and every mosque, pushing everyone into Rafah and dropping bombs. The blood is on your hands, Biden. We can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. That line, those two phrases right there, destroying the colleges and the mosques, dropping bombs on Rafah. He's tying that into these protests for Palestine across college campuses, because all of the mosques and all of the colleges that have been destroyed in Gaza, in stark comparison to the college campuses where these protests are happening. And then on the other hand, we see the blood is on your hands, Biden. We can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. I love that line right there. I love it. The blood's on your hands, and there's no fucking way I'm voting for you. You can't twist the truth. The people out here united, never be defeated when freedom's on the horizon. Yet the music industry's quiet, complicit in silence. That's another thing. I mean, the whole music industry as a whole is definitely complicit, because they're not saying anything. They're silent. They're not even remotely speaking up, because they're terrified of the consequences of speaking up. So what happened to the artist? What do you got to say? If I was on a label, you can drop me today. I like that a lot, because he's basically saying, he's speaking from his chest. He's speaking 10 toes down. If I was on a label, I don't care if I get dropped. I'm going to speak my truth. I'm going to put y'all on blast. And if y'all want to drop me, if I was even on a label, then that's fine. I'd be fine with it, because the heart fed my page. I want a ceasefire. Fuck a response from Drake. What are you willing to risk? What are you willing to give? What if you were in Rafah and Gaza? And what if you were those kids? If the West was pretending that you didn't exist, you'd want the world to stand up, and the students finally did. All of these verses and the entire song is an absolute bar from top to bottom. He's really emphasizing multiple different points. But there's a handful of ones that I really want to emphasize again. Fuck the police, that's number one, because the police are there to protect property. They are actors of the state, not there to protect the public, but there to protect the interests of the wealthy and the well-off. And then, speaking of the rich and the wealthy, he's talking about you can pay off Meta, but you can't pay off me. Meta and all these companies, whatever you want to call it, Meta, Facebook, whatever, they can be bought, but the normal everyday citizen cannot. And then it gets into the Palestinian videos on TikTok that's driving this ban, because the establishment is terrified that the realities of their genocide is being broadcast to everyone's phone around the world through TikTok. It's too late. You can't take us out of the algorithm. We have seen the truth, and we have we bear witness. We've seen the rubble, we've seen the buildings, the mothers, the dead children, and the men that you've murdered. last one I really want to talk about, and I've talked about this throughout this. The Nakba has never ended. It hasn't ended. It's not some event that happened in the past. It is an ongoing, current catastrophe. The colonizer has lied. The colonizer wants you to believe that the Nakba is in the past, but the Nakba has never ended and is currently ongoing and being broadcast live to all the phones around the world. And the police are coming in because the students and tents are occupying the quad because the police have been sent in by the state because the police are actors of the state. And then lastly, the blood is on your hands, Biden. We can see it all. And fuck no, I'm not voting for you in the fall. That's my. There's a lot of lines within this song that I love. But that line right there, he says, fuck no, I'm not voting for you. I love that. I love it. Finally, someone has come out and said it because I'm not voting for Biden. There's no way in hell I'm voting for this, this genocide enabler. He has no backbone. He has enormous amount of blood on his hands because if you look at the situation, carpet bombing innocent civilians is not winning a war. It's genocide. We look at the conflict in Ukraine. Obviously, there's been children that have passed away due to indiscriminate bombings, but not to the scale that has been going on right now in the Gaza Strip. So, I love this song. I mean, I'm so glad Macklemore has the spine, the guts to stand up for what he believes in. I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for tuning in, whether you're watching on video format or audio format. Thank you for engaging with this content, and I will see you all in the next one. Deuces.